Ladies and gentlemen, the ongoing conflict in the Amhara region has unleashed a torrent of violence and suffering, as Amhara Fano forces clash with the Ethiopian National Defense Force, ENDF, on multiple fronts. In this extensive update, we will delve deeply into the latest developments from various cities within the region, shedding light on the escalating humanitarian crisis. In the vicinity of Lalibela in northern Wello, specifically in the area known as Kulmesk, the situation has taken a grim turn, with reports emerging of 4 Amhara civilians falling victim to the relentless fighting. This tragic toll underscores the devastating impact of the conflict on the lives of innocent people who find themselves caught in the crossfire. Transitioning to Gonda in Chinchai, the ENDF's actions have taken a gruesome turn, as it is alleged that they have committed a heinous act by murdering 8 Amhara civilians through dismemberment. Such a grotesque display of brutality sends shockwaves through the region, underscoring the urgent need for a peaceful resolution to the conflict. In Koladeba, another Gonda locality, the ENDF's actions have taken a horrifying turn. Reports indicate that they apprehended a teacher by the name of Wand, subjecting him to a brutal leg injury before callously murdering him in public. Additionally, they prevented a child from receiving vital medical care, callously branding her as a family Fano fighter, leading to her tragic demise due to the lack of timely medical attention. These incidents are a stark reminder of the indiscriminate violence ravaging the region. On the B22 highway near Debre Tabor in Gonda, in a place known as Gasai, the situation is no less dire. Shockingly, 8 Amhara civilians have met their untimely demise, with reports suggesting that the Oromo NDF is responsible for their deaths. Among the victims are a teacher, 2 14-year-old boys, and several others returning from the market. These incidents further emphasize the pervasive violence and insecurity plaguing the region. In the 02 district, encompassing Shiwa Robert and northern Shiwa, 2 Amhara civilians have tragically lost their lives following brief clashes with Fano forces. These skirmishes only serve to exacerbate the prevailing instability and insecurity, compounding the challenges faced by local communities. Shifting our focus to Meraho and Hoti, located near Desi, the ENDF's actions have led to the mass imprisonment of nearly 1,000 Amhara civilians, predominantly youth. The scale of these detentions raises grave concerns about the well-being and human rights of those detained, further deepening the humanitarian crisis. In Ibanat, another Gonda locality, disturbing reports have surfaced indicating that hundreds of Amhara civilians, including women and children, are languishing in military camps under accusations of being Fano family members. The dire implications of these detentions on the affected individuals and their families cannot be overstated. Moreover, a profoundly disturbing video has emerged from Finote Salam in Gojam, Amhara region, depicting a harrowing Ethiopian army drone strike that claimed the lives of numerous Amhara residents. Due to YouTube policies, the video cannot be shared, but its contents paint a horrifying picture of the tragedy. The impact on the local community is devastating, with victims' lifeless bodies strewn throughout the streets and the anguished cries of survivors echoing in the background. Reports have also highlighted the crippling consequences of repeated attacks, instability, and pressure against staff on the hospital in Finote Salam, which has been forced to shut down. This development leaves the local population in desperate need of medical care, further exacerbating their plight. Selective travel restrictions imposed by Oromia Special Forces and Oromo militias on individuals with Amhara region identification traveling from various areas of Amhara to Addis Ababa compound the challenges faced by the Amhara population. These restrictions not only disrupt the lives of countless individuals, but also deepen divisions within the nation. Additionally, a profoundly distressing incident has occurred in the new central region of Ethiopia, where the Garage people fell victim to violence perpetrated by armed forces. The outcome was tragic, with casualties and the destruction of property leaving a scar on the community. Furthermore, reports have emerged of 6 employees, including one Kenyan national from a geothermal plant in Oromia, being kidnapped by the Oromo Liberation Army. This group has reportedly demanded a substantial ransom, prompting the Ethiopian government to initiate negotiations, even as they wage a full-scale war on Fano forces in other parts of the region. In a separate but equally troubling development, a Christian Oromo nationalist hate preacher and his entire family were brutally killed in Arsi, with the motive believed to be rooted in suspicions of their Amhara identity. This incident underscores the urgent need for unity and understanding in these tumultuous times. The United Nations Human Rights Council, HRC, is going to make an important decision regarding the future of an independent commission that is investigating alleged war crimes and other human rights violations in Ethiopia's ICHREE region and other areas. This commission, consisting of 3 experts, has identified serious violations of international law and crimes since the brutal conflict began in November 2020. This conflict involves Ethiopian government forces, Eritrean troops, and Amhara armed groups fighting against Tigrayan forces. The future of this International Commission of Human Rights Experts on Ethiopia, ICHREE, is at stake. The United States and other Western governments, for various geopolitical and economic reasons, argue that the Ethiopian government's proposed transitional justice plan makes the commission unnecessary. However, it is crucial for Ethiopia to achieve lasting peace through genuine political and legal accountability. Without this, there remains a significant risk of more terrible crimes, including war crimes, crimes against humanity, and even genocide. Even the U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken has acknowledged that various parties, including the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, ENDF, Amhara Forces, Eritrean Defense Forces, EDF, and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, have committed war crimes and crimes against humanity. ICHREE has highlighted in its latest report that the conflict in Tigray is ongoing, with Eritrean troops and Amhara militias continuing to commit violations. It has called for further investigation and criticized the Ethiopian government for failing to effectively investigate these violations and for initiating a flawed transitional justice process. Given the lack of trust in national institutions and their limitations, only an impartial international body like ICHREE can conduct a thorough, independent, and comprehensive investigation into the atrocities in Tigray and other ongoing conflicts in Ethiopia. As the HRC prepares to decide whether to extend the Commission's mandate, it has a responsibility to uphold the fundamental principles of human rights on which it is based. Therefore, it should support ICHREE's continuation rather than discontinuing it. The dynamics between ICHREE and the HRC. ICHREE, in its report dated September 14th, has detailed numerous heinous crimes and has called for unrestricted access to areas where atrocities are ongoing. Despite being denied access to Ethiopia, ICHREE conducted a meticulous investigation based on international standards. They conducted interviews remotely and in person in neighboring Kenya and Uganda. The report is based on 545 direct interviews, including 360 new ones, and an analysis of more than 570 supplementary documents and pieces of evidence. However, the investigators faced many challenges, including lack of access, delays in staffing, telecommunication disruptions, and security concerns. The Ethiopian government's lack of cooperation and the reluctance of neighboring countries like Djibouti and Sudan, which host Ethiopian refugees, posed significant obstacles. There were also challenges within the UN system itself, particularly in dealing with the Joint Investigation Team, GIAT, of the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, EHRC, and the OHCHR East Africa Regional Office, ERO. Some states have used the JIT to argue for ending ICHREE's mandate and to support the Ethiopian government's questionable transitional justice process outlined in the Cessation of Hostilities Agreement, ICHREE. Concurrently, despite ongoing engagement, ICHREE reported delays when requesting access to information gathered by the joint OHCHR-EHRC team. Political barriers suggest that, while the current report sheds light on some grave violations, it may not cover the full extent of the atrocities. ICHREE has identified more than a dozen situations that require further investigation and has continued to seek access to Ethiopia. There are reports indicating that the United States and Western countries are ready to end ICHREE. Ethiopia had proposed ending the commission during the HRC's last session, but withdrew its proposal with the understanding that Western countries would not renew the probe when it expires in December. Based on previous voting patterns, it is likely that many African, Latin American, Caribbean, and Asia-Pacific states will vote against extending ICHREE's mandate, while the United States, Western countries, and Eastern European states may support ending the investigation. ICHREE has faced continuous resistance from the Ethiopian government and its allies in the HRC. The African Union also terminated a parallel inquiry by the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, setting a concerning precedent. Reports of negotiations between global powers and the Ethiopian government further cloud ICHREE's future, as some countries view it as an infringement on sovereignty, despite the HRC having established similar fact-finding and investigative mechanisms in the past.